So this meeting is being recorded. So like I said, my name is Angela. I'm with the Alumni Association, and we're really excited that you're able to join us for today's finance webinar with two alumni, Phil Pareto and Stephen Yeager. This webinar is part of the Alumni Association's virtual events and programs, which we hope to provide thought-provoking, valuable, and also fun content that will help keep alumni like yourself involved and able to achieve your personal and professional goals. Please keep an eye on our weekly emails that we send every Friday outlining the different variety of virtual programs for the week ahead. I wanted to now introduce our two speakers. Like I said, we have Phil, class of 1997. He's a financial advisor with Merrill Lynch. He also has several small businesses in Las Vegas. And I should add that both Phil and Steve are joining us from the Vegas area. So really excited to have Terps represented from all across the country, not just Terps from the DMV. And then Steve, he is class of 95. He is married and has 3 sons. He's a certified financial planner and chartered financial consultant. He has been with several financial services, but in the business since 95. He's been with Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and also Merrill Lynch. So how today's webinar is going to work, we are going to have Steve and Phil kind of provide us some background as far as what's been taking place in the financial industry the last couple of weeks. And then we will open it up to question and answer because they feel like that will be where you will receive the most value. So I'd ask that you utilize the chat feature. You should hopefully see the participants list. You type your question, then I can facilitate the questions to Steve and Phil. So with that, I will pass it over to Steve and Phil, and you can take it from there.
Terrific. Thank you, Angela. So yes, I did graduate in 97. Joe Smith was playing basketball at the time. He used to come down to Denton Hall when I was a freshman over there. And I also lived at the Language House and also in South Hall, Montgomery Hall. So I'm glad to see so many people on this webinar. So anyway, I'm going to be talking about the new act that was passed by the president and by Congress. It's the $310 billion PPP and HCE Act, the Healthcare Enhancement Act. So in this act, $60 billion was set aside for small community banks and credit unions. They're basically focusing on the minority and women-owned businesses, and also the local small hospitals that are focusing on the research. Remember the PPP, if you haven't applied for it yet or waiting for your application to be responded to, it's for mortgage, rent, utilities, and for your personnel. If anyone here is from Nevada, small gaming casinos at first didn't qualify, but now they do qualify. In this act, also, they talked about unemployment. Individual contractors, Uber and Lyft drivers now qualify for it. Let's see, they also, the employment retention, there's an employment retention tax credit. That's a refundable tax credit for employers equal to 50% of the qualified wages up to $10,000. And there is also a deferral of payroll taxes for 2020. And for those of you who haven't gotten your unemployment checks yet, do not worry, they will be retroactive according to this act. So I know you might have a bunch more questions, but I just wanted to give you guys an update on that. And then Steve's going to be talking to you about the questions you might have about your own personal investments.
All right, I thought I'd jump in real quick, Phil. Thanks. I too was there. I graduated in 95 with Joe Smith, and I remember living in the Knox blocks. Went to Sigma Chi and was in the Knox blocks for quite some time. But anyways, I thought, you know, where you guys might get the most value, or especially in the volatility and what we've been seeing in the markets over the last, you know, month or two. I just kind of thought I'd go over some of the questions I've been getting personally, my team and myself, from our own clients. You know, they're calling up and asking, is now a time to rebalance? Should we be going to cash? What are we doing in this pandemic? And to be honest, it's not I wish it was a cookie cut answer, but it's not. It's an answer that it's more based on your own situation But where some generalities will come into play would be, and I advise this to all of my clients, as I said, every single, think of it as buckets of money, short-term, intermediate, longer term. But if any amount of money that you possibly would be needing in the next year, 2 years, possibly even 3 years, I would not have that in the market. You need to have a cash cushion, and you need to have that out, because typically if you go back to, I've been doing this since 95, I saw 102, the dot-com crash, got our clients through that. I saw 08, 09, the Great Recession, got our clients through that. And when you go through something like this, what we're going through now, it typically takes a year, 2 years, 3 years to get back to where you were. So we like to advise our clients to say, hey, make sure you've got a good cash, CD, short-term bonds, checking accounts, savings accounts, things of that nature to get you through. So that way you don't have to sell while the market's down to go into any other funds or anything else you need. So that would be question one. And then a lot of other questions are like, well, should we be rebalancing or making other changes? And if it's longer term monies, then the answer would be no. I wouldn't be, if we're talking 2, 3 years or longer, I absolutely wouldn't be making any.
Can you just make sure that you're muted, everyone? Looks like there's a few people that muted right now.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. If everybody could be on mute, and then if you have a question, you can jump on in and feel free to do so, or check in with Angela. How are we going to do this? But so yeah, but basically, I'll close with now's not the time to panic. If you have a good plan with wherever you're at, stick with it. I think you're going to be, definitely paid off in the long term for doing so. And that's kind of what we're advising our clients. If as long as it's 2, 3 years out, you should be fine. Rebound, do that type of stuff. But keep your cash reserves available for the short-term things. And I think that's it. And like I said, I know Phil talked on the PPP and the bank aspects and that. So why don't we kind of open this up to Q&A, and you guys can fire away and ask any questions that you'd have of Phil and myself, and see if we can help you out a little bit.
So it looks like we have a small enough group. If you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, feel free, or you can, like I said, type in the chat feature any questions that you might be having.
We just should have more cash available. You said 2, 3 years.
Hi, this is Latanya. Thank you guys for doing this. I just had a quick question. I know you were talking about make sure you have enough cash, but if you have extra cash right now, would you suggest people go into the market, or what do you think people should do right now?
That's a great question. And I think what I would say to that is I think it's a good time to be dollar cost averaging into the market, as long, and I'm getting these, questions from our clients a lot. As long as you can realistically say that whatever amounts in it, doesn't matter the dollar amount, but whatever amount you're speaking on, you're not going to be needing at all for 2 to 3 years. If you can say, no, this is, intermediate to longer term funds, or even possibly retirement, then yes, I think right now, we've come up a lot from the low we hit on, I believe it was March 23rd. We're up a lot from that low. As a matter of fact, I think after today, the market was up another 400 points today. We're probably only 14, 15% down now from the all-time high. And that seems strange, being with everything that's going on with the economy, to only really be down 14, 15%. That's why I wouldn't want to put it all in at one time. I'd rather you take whatever amount you're talking about here and maybe do a monthly, if it's 6 months or a year, do a little bit over time. That way, if we were to go back down again and retest the lows, you're buying your dollar cost average again. So yes, I would do that. I think it's a great time, but I would dollar cost average and make sure it's not for any funds that you're going to be needing at least for the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
No more questions? That was quick and dirty.
I'm going to shut it down.
Okay, Steve or Phil have any other insights that you've been seeing in the market or questions that have come up with clients of yours? I don't want to keep everybody on too long. Don't have questions.
Bill, do you have anything else you want to add? Any other insights from the bank aspect? And feel free.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that I've received as questions. I mean, there's still, in terms of the next stimulus check, they're still debating that in Congress right now. In terms of the required minimum distributions, now it's 72. If you're, if you turn 70 and a half on December 31st, 2019, now the age is 72 for required minimum distributions, and that has been waived and suspended for 2020. Let's see, in terms of, in terms of the PPP and the economic disaster funds, I mean, there's $10,000 set aside for emergency grants. So even if you apply for that economic disaster loan and you haven't received a word yet, they're supposed to have distributed about $10,000, usually $1,000 per employee. So let's see. I mean, just to give you an idea of how big this is, the SBA received more applications in the first 14 days of the PPP that it has in 14 years. So, I mean, that's how quickly they're trying to process it. If you're in Nevada, I mean, the unemployment office here has added 200 workers to man all the applications that are coming in. So in terms of unemployment, it's good until the July 31st. And they also give you an additional 13 weeks of unemployment. And one thing that is not being talked about in the news right now that's really important is the net operating loss. So, now they are in the CARES Act. So it goes back to the period of from 2018 to 2020. It can carry back for 5 years your net operating loss with your business. That's forms 1045 and 1139. So this, in the past, you've been able to write off, up to 80% of your taxable income. Now it's 100%. Okay, so go to your accountants and ask them, about the past couple of years and see if you could refile and, get those tax credits for your business.
What about,
What?
Does anybody else have any other questions they want to bring up?
have I been withheld from some companies? Why some companies?
Alrighty.
Too many. What'd you say?
All right. Well, with that, we're going to just then go ahead and close up. I really appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day to tune in. And thank you so much, Phil and Steve, for the updates. This was really helpful. I will be sending out a follow-up email after this, and I can provide their contact information if anybody wants to follow up directly. And like I said, please stay tuned for future virtual programming. And if you have any ideas for events that you would like to see, you can contact me directly. We're always looking for new ideas on ways to keep alumni engaged. So with that, thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Angela.